Good evening, everyone. Once again, thank you for joining me on Changing Lives with myself, Andrew Bell. This is the sixth episode this evening, and I'm now going to be talking a lot this evening about my experience of what it's like to come and join a Christian rehab, and what it's like for me as a paraplegic. For specifically for anyone else or anyone else's parents and families who may be out there who would like to know what it's like and any sort of difficulties or challenges that I've faced and the things that have been put into place to help me. I'm going to just start, as I always do on every episode, just a quick recap of where I was last time. So last time I talked in quite deep graphic detail about my addiction to crack cocaine and again my mental health plummeting. It got very serious to a point where I very, very, very closely had another attempt on my own life. I was just in the gutter, is the best phrase to use. At a point where I'd lost my family, I'd lost everything around me, everything I loved, everything I had had walked away from me virtually, and I was going nowhere fast, but either to prison or ultimately I would have, I don't think I would have made it the rest of this year if I had carried on the way I'm going. I know people have seen it once before, but just for anyone who may not have seen the last video, this was a picture of me in, it was around about February this year. And as I say, just in the worst place I'd been and going nowhere fast. It got to a stage that I finally decided that I wanted to make a change. I contacted my GP. I contacted several organizations. I'm not going to name them, but unfortunately for me, they couldn't take me due to the fact that I was in a wheelchair. And I even went to, previously, I did go to another rehab called Oak Trees in North Shields. And this was about a year before I actually came down here. Now, at the time, I basically did it to try and please my mum, please my family and friends, and to make it look like I was doing the right thing. Shamefully, but honestly, all I did was go there for that reason. I didn't go there because I ultimately wasn't ready to change, and I was still using while I was there. I think I managed 9 weeks while I managed to dodge the, as an addict, you become a professional at getting around things. I used my paralysis shamefully as an excuse to, they wanted to do urine samples for drug tests. I would always make sure my catheter was empty before I went into the center so that they couldn't test me. And I had an excuse for why I couldn't do the drugs tests until eventually one day I fell flat on my face and, I got caught and was asked to leave. But ultimately, at that time in my life, I wasn't ready. So, as I say, I was just not in the best place for me to do that. My mum actually sent me something early this year, though, because once I did start making the progress that I did, and she could see the progress for herself, she knew that I was ready, and she actually sent me this. I'll just read it out. So, no one changes unless they want to. Not if you beg them, not if you shame them, not if you use reason, emotion, or tough love. There's only one thing that makes someone change: their own realization that they need to do it. And there's only one time it will happen: when they decide they're ready. Now, that couldn't have been more apparent to me and my life at the time. And as I say, I had tried other rehabs, but ultimately I wasn't ready. And this time over, my mum had recognized that I was ready, and I recognized I was ready because I put into place looking for the rehabs, and I was very, thankfully through a family friend, found out about Reach Out Ministries, and I came down here with my mum and dad in May, and I kind of had an expectation of what it would be like. However, when we came down for my parents, especially my mum. I don't, my mum didn't have any background experience, and bless her, I think she thought it would be a little bit like Center Parcs. Now, unfortunately, unless you're extremely wealthy and you can go to one of these places, this is a reality of what the care this Reach Out Ministries is like, and it is. I'm not gonna lie, and I've already openly said this today, that I would be honest that this is difficult. It is a charity, so there is limited resources and funding. And it was just touched upon in the Bible study just there by Pastor that when I wanted to come down here in September, they didn't actually have a shower suitable for me, but I was that desperate and that ready in myself that I just said it didn't matter. I want to come down. And for the first 2 weeks, I did have cold showers. And thankfully, since then, Pastor has very kindly took out the glass casing around one of the showers. He's put down a shower mat. He purchased a shower chair for me to use, so I can still now have a hot shower. And then we're ultimately looking to get a wet room put in for not just me. Obviously, it will be me while I'm here, but for any other people who have a wheelchair in the future who may come down and then have the facilities for that. But I think that's quite a sort of really good point, in the sense that it didn't previously. I would have used that as an excuse as to, oh well, look, I can't go, they haven't even got a shower for me, so then I could continue back in the madness that I was living before. But no, as I say, I was desperate and I knew that I was ready to make the changes. My mum didn't come down with me when I eventually moved in here, and I think she, I'm sure there's many mothers out there and parents and wives and girlfriends who, and even yourself, nobody wants to end up into rehab. It's not where you want to be. And as I'm sure any parents out there, they don't want their sons or daughters to eventually get to a stage where they have to come here. So when I moved down here, just to let people know, I was anxious. I had, up until that point, a steady bit of sobriety at home from the use of crack cocaine. I'd managed to do my rattle, as it's called, where I went cold turkey from using it, and cold turkey from the medication that I was using, called gabapentin. And I did that at home. And by the time I got here, so I did have some sobriety. And however, I was still extremely anxious, extremely nervous, didn't know what to expect. Now, for anyone who's coming here, it wouldn't be normal if you didn't feel that. For me, it was almost the case of, first day at school, but even maybe first day at prison, I did not have a clue what to expect. So when I came down, naturally, as I say, I was very nervous. And for me to kind of explain, just for anyone knowing what it's going to be like. So when you arrive, you have your bags checked by the residents and a member of staff, and you get taken to your room. And for me, when I first visited in May, my mum was actually the person who came to look at the rooms, because at the time there was the lift wasn't working. So they do have a working lift here now. So I didn't get to see the rooms, and I think my mum saw one of the single rooms. So she prepared me for a small room, and I had. And again, it sounds silly, but almost like a prison cell sort of ethos. But when I got here, I actually got given a treble room. So it was like the penthouse I'd been given. So when I was really, really pleasantly surprised, I've got a huge room, which is really useful for my wheelchair. It's right next to the showers. And as I say, there is a working lift. Now, admittedly, since I've been here, the electrics have gone off twice. So thankfully, the lads didn't have to go to the gym for a couple of days, because they've been humping me up and down the stairs. And they can vouch for the fact that I've certainly put on about 1.5 stone when I got here. So when it went off in my first, I think it was the first week, it went off. They were lifting me up and down the stairs, no problem. And it went off just recently. And again, the lads certainly made it known that I'd put on a few pounds, because it was a lot harder to get me up and down the stairs. So yeah, but as well, the lads, when I got here, they could not have made me feel any more comfortable, any more welcomed. I'm extremely lucky that the guy that's next to me, he actually has 2 children of his own who have disabilities. So it just made me ease. And I remember my first night, put my head on my pillow, and I felt really, really, the anxiety had gone. I felt very much more that, this isn't going to be daunting as what I thought, and it made me feel really, really comfortable. The lads, obviously because of my circumstances, they help with my cooking, the cleaning duties that I'm limited to, and everyone always takes if I go up into town, they'll always push me and things of that nature. So I'm probably better off look after here than I am sometimes with my own brothers, because they as I say, just brothers as they are, they sometimes give me tough love, but here I'm very, very surrounded by a lot of love and a lot of friendship, and I can't appreciate that enough. So if there's anyone else, any parents or family members wondering what it's like, I'm certainly not struggling in that sense. I'm just going to go through some notes that I've made, but for anyone obviously then that's wondering, the daily routine is normally at 7 a.m. There is a Bible study. Now that consists of, usually on a morning, it's a couple of YouTube videos which we'll put on, which will possibly be a sermon or something that in that related on that kind of connotation. We watch that for about 40 minutes, and then there'll be breakfast at 8 a.m. and then at 12 noon there's lunch, and at 5:30, 5 to 5:30 we have tea, and 6:30 we have a Bible study. Now, in between those gaps, when you first come for your first 2 weeks, it's just a case of bedding in, getting used to your surroundings. There's a prayer room, which did previously until yesterday have a huge projector, but the projector's gone. So thankfully, Pastor's just bought us a 55-inch screen smart TV, so we're all buzzing about that. And it's got everything that all the mod cons with regards to Netflix and all that kind of thing. So there is that, and then we also have a TV room upstairs on the top floor. It's got a PlayStation and an Xbox. So there's things like that just to try and get you welcomed and settled in for the first 2 weeks. I personally, and most people do, register with a GP nearby. And it's just a case of trying to fill in your own time. You're encouraged to sort of write to family, and it is, again, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It can be quite boring and tedious at times, but we've just touched upon it in our Bible study. Then it gives you the opportunity to just think and acknowledge where you are and what you've done previously. I've touched upon this before. We don't, as addicts, see the devastation that we caused, the destruction that we've caused to our loved ones, our family, our friends, and it's just me. Where here, a lot of the times, even in our Bible studies, we don't even sometimes talk necessarily about the Bible or God or Christianity. Sometimes we go around and we've had testimonies where we've been very vulnerable between ourselves and had the courage to open up with each other, and that helps build the bond between the group. One of the lads, Mark, he's just done a very brief testimony there, and I'm actually going to get Mark to come on and do one of my episodes with me because his story is extremely powerful. He won't mind me saying he's been here now for over 2 years, and he's, what he's got through in 2 years, the perseverance to get what he probably thinks it wasn't impossible to get back, his family, his life, his daughter. He's got a job. He's ready to leave here now. And he's a prime example of someone that has been there, worn the t-shirt and completed the program. And I don't have any children and I haven't completed the program yet. So I can relate as much as I can to people who may be in a wheelchair or addictions and so forth. But I wanted him to come on, and I'm going to possibly get a few of the residents on. So there's other people out there who may have issues with not having access to children or other issues that he can relate to. So then it's going to reach a wider audience, which is the whole purpose of the episodes that I'm doing. So as I say, for the first 2 weeks, it's a case of bedding in. Then as time goes on, you are allowed to go out with a card holder, which is predominantly someone who's been here for usually 6 months or longer. Now, there's a shopping centre nearby, so we can go out and go to the shops, just get food, get bits and bobs for your room, just get fresh air, change of scenery. And we also sometimes go on walks. Pastor's son James will take us out to the local parks. I've got an attachment that attaches on my wheelchair, and actually, I think, bear with me, I've got a picture of it. So I brought it's called a Firefly for anyone who's interested. I'd mentioned that last time, but we went on a 5.5 hour walk stroke bike ride for me recently, and all to the park nearby, and then all the way along the coast. And it's really good just to get fresh air. It's a change of scenery, and it breaks up your day. So, and I know we've got plans to go to York later in the next few weeks, a group of us for the day. And then next year, Pastor Colin's going to take us over to Ireland. So again, it's things to look forward to. And it just breaks up the monotony at times. As I say, after 3 months, then you are allowed access between 3 and 6 months to visits and family members. Family can ring up so to find out how you're doing, so they can call the centre and speak to the staff. And Pastor Colin or Lisa or Alison, who are the office managers, they can let people know how you're doing. And we are allowed to speak to family members every now and then. But the point of what Pastor's always said is this is a time for our families to then rebuild themselves. It's not just about us as the individual rebuilding ourselves. Our families and friends and loved ones have to, because we don't understand how much destruction we've caused. A prime example for me was I came here and I was here for, I think it was about 2 weeks, and I needed my wheelchair cushion changing. So my mum and dad drove down, and I had been able to email my mum while I was here, so tell her how well I'd settled in, how it was so much better than what I'd previously expected. The changes that had been made on my behalf, and in terms of the showering and so forth. So when my mum came down, she could not believe the difference in me. Now, I probably can't see it because I see myself most days, but just in the space of 2 weeks, and just to see the smile on my mum and my dad's face, it was worth its weight in gold. So my mum got to a point where she didn't want me to even come because I'd got a bit of sobriety, and then after only 2 weeks, my mum emailed me after she left, and she just said she was so thrilled at how well I was doing, how proud she was. I was definitely in the right place. And Pastor said it, and I've heard him say it to other families who've visited as well, that they now need to go and enjoy their life again. And that for me, again, is a massive thing. My mum and dad now have told me several times that my mum, for the first time in 7.5 years, is sleeping without worrying. She's going to bed and not worrying about the phone ringing or me or what I'm doing or what I'm up to. She knows that I'm safe. She knows that I'm making huge progress in my life. And I'm not a parent, but I can only imagine for any parents who've got sons or daughters who've got addictions or mental health issues, or strugglings that they're going through, to not have that worry and to see your son or your daughter making huge improvements in their life. I can see the weight just coming off my mum and dad as they left, and they now constantly just telling me how proud they are, and friends as well contacting me just to say how much they see the difference in me. And I've only been here now for 6 weeks, so the program it's 18 months. So if I plan on completing the program, so if I'm that far in 6 weeks, people can see that photo of me, as I say, that I showed at the start. That wasn't a year ago, 2 years ago. That was very recently. So if you're in that position or similar to me in that position, you're looking at me now thinking, wow, I could never get to where he's got. It must have taken him so much work and time. And I've come here and I've very quickly managed to go with the program, be like a sponge, learn from everybody. There are admittedly people who've been here who left early and they fell, and then they've had the strength to come back. Now, for me, I don't plan on doing that. So I'm learning from people's mistakes, and they're themselves now growing. They've come back and they've had the strength to do that, and then they're still getting better. So there's a wide group and a wide sort of a clique, I say wide group of people here who've all got different backgrounds, but we're all learning from each other. But as I say, personally, I only plan on doing this once, and so I can learn from everybody else, and ultimately then hopefully people can learn from me. And I also, one of the main things that they do here, I say we, the staff do here, is to try and get people back into education. no matter how little or much I personally have a law degree. Now, that doesn't mean I don't want to do further my education while I'm here. Now, I am plan on doing my level 2, 3, and 4 guidance and counselling courses while I'm here, which I never in a million years thought I'd be able to do when I got here. If anything, I'd already pre-planned to do that through a college in Durham before I got here. Now I found out I can do it while I'm here. Now there's also people who've got English and maths that they've done here, and there's a wide range of courses that you can do. So over the first period of time you're here, it's a case of settling in, getting used to the program, and then over time you can then use your time proactively with trying to get into education to then ultimately, by the time you leave, you are clean, you're sober, you have some education behind you, which can then ultimately help you get into work. And there's also support with living. Personally, again, one of my big goals is that I want to write a book while I'm here. And Pastor Colin has already, we've just discussed in depth about what I'm going to do, and he's going to help me with that. So again, there's a wide variety of things that you can do while you're here, and it's not just a case of coming here to get sober. And again, I'm just repeating what Pastor says, is that he can't do it for you, and we can only do it for ourselves, which again reiterates the message that I've put up there from my mum. She pointed that out, that my friends and my family numerous occasions have tried to point me in the right direction, but ultimately I wasn't ready. And even some of the lads who have been here and then left, they realised themselves that they weren't ready. They left, but then they've come back because they understand that now is the time for them to get on with their life and be ready. One thing we do again, though, I've just missed off. I'm just looking through my notes, so forgive me. Is we do a church service on a Sunday, every Sunday, and again, it's just a way for us to integrate with the community here and gets us out of the building, and it's just something that we all enjoy, and we all admittedly, again, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it is cold in the church, which is going to get resolved soon, but again, it's just a way for us to learn about Christianity, but it's not always about that. For me, I found that I've gained so much life lessons from the Bible studies and from the time that I've spent in the church and listening to Pastor Colin and Pastor Phineas and some of the other people that get up. And it's, as I say, it's things that I am implementing into my life, which I'll use going forward for the rest of my life to make sure that I stick to the right path. That's a narrow path, as Pastor says all the time. It's not a motorway where you can go in and out, in and out. It's a narrow path. But if you stick on that path, then you're always going to be going in the right direction, and you're not making the same mistakes, and you're not living the previous horrific life that we all lived before. And going forward, as I say, I'm going to start doing more and more testimonies with other people, and I will also do a kind of in the day, a sort of video stroke camera footage of a life in the day of what it's like here, because I have explained it there, but again, I'm sure there's a lot of parents and families out there who would love to see what it's actually like. So we're going to spend the time possibly this week or next where I'll go around the building and I'll show people what, the rooms, the showers, the prayer room, what it's like, where the sort of kitchen, as I say, there's a table tennis table, there's a pool table. We've already had a couple of nights where we've had table tennis and pool tournaments, and we are avid karaoke fans, some of us, so we do karaoke on an evening, and it's ultimately trying to be fun all at the same time as much as we all ultimately don't want to be here. We're getting better, and we're trying to make it as lighthearted and as fun as we can while we're here. So that's basically it for this evening. It was a bit more of a shorter one, but I just wanted to give people an insight of what it's actually like coming here. As I say, for me, being a paraplegic, I've had so much support, and I will continue, I'm sure. So for any parents out there who are looking for somewhere to come and accommodate their family who may have son or daughter who's in a wheelchair or other disabilities, this is certainly equipped to take that. And as I say, there's a working lift and other facilities that are more suitable. So yeah, please don't hesitate to get in touch with the ministry if that's something that is obviously going to be beneficial to you or your loved one. And I just want to thank everyone for all the support that I've had. I've had support from so many different places, different countries, and it's a blessing for me to be able to hopefully just help one person get out of addiction or get out of depression. And I am proof that, as you've seen in the photos I've posted already, that I was going nowhere fast, and in such a short space of time, I've got a future. I've got a path that I'm willing to follow to get to the goals that I want from a life that I never thought was possible. So I just want to thank everyone. God bless everyone here, and God bless you all watching, and I'll see you all next week.